I got a lot of shine. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of grind. Try and take it from me, must be out your mind. Oh, I'm big time, lot of shine. Smoky in the air, that's a lot of pop. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try and take it from me, from me. Big time, going up. Down in my teeth, I got a lot of shine. Running up the numbers, that's a lot of grind. Try and take it from me, must be out your mind. Oh, I'm big time, lot of shine. Smoky in the air, that's a lot of pop. Pockets running over with the dollar sign. Try and take it from me, take it from me.
A truly crippled healthcare system and a planetary crisis on our hands, and we're the wealthiest nation in the history of the world. So we can do 10 trillion. It's,
we have to really look at the current history of the criminal justice system and realize that it is not adequate enough to prosecute itself.
If they believe Donald John Trump incited the insurrection.
I'm getting a very good feeling about vaccination right this moment.
It's important to me that diversity is put front and center.
We went from COVID to the epidemic of gun violence.
Walls do not save lives.
It will save your life.
And I was really disturbed. I saw Trump flags and in some cases just dozens of American flags.
So I also represent CNN, and so I must tell the truth. And if I don't, if my facts are wrong, then I have to clarify it, and I have to come on television, and I have to apologize, and I say, I got that wrong.
We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Welcome to Tampa. It is awesome to be here in person and not locked down in the state that defied the lockdowns from the very beginning here in Florida. And I got to tell you, we're going to be talking about a lot of different things for the next couple days. But look around you. If you've been looking for hope, you'll see it here in Tampa, Florida, where thousands and thousands and thousands of young people are gathering for our country and for freedom. So I had an amazing couple months. Many of you probably heard on May 8th, I got married to the most amazing person. In fact, Erica, come on out here. You want to see Erica? Give it up for Erica, everybody. So it's been a very busy couple months. You could say, being back here in Tampa is incredible. In fact, I know downtown Tampa very well because this is the city where really Turning Point USA was born. Back in 2012, I was 18 years old, and I came here for the Republican National Convention. And I always dreamed of being able to host events even close to being in that size, but we had no money in our bank account, no donors, no connections, nothing at all. So I went to the local Marriott right here across the street, and I found some guy that had too many drinks, and he gave me his badge to go into the Republican National Convention. And I thought you could buy tickets to the RNC kind of like scalpers. I was wrong. You have to have very specific credentials. So I got into the Republican National Convention as an 18-year-old, never going to college, just graduating high school, and walked through with my mentor, Bill Montgomery, and I saw this guy in a cowboy hat by the name of Foster Freeze, and told him this idea that we can energize and motivate and inspire the next generation of conservatives and freedom fighters across the country. And right there, he wrote us our first check for Turning Point USA. And you look around and you see what's happened all the way back here in Tampa, Florida. There's a couple things I want to talk to you guys about. I want to set the theme for this conference. We as conservatives have got to stop playing defense. I feel like we are always defending. We're always apologizing. The theme of this conference is to play offense. We are going to get into an offensive mindset here at this conference, that it is time that we stop ceding ground to the left, that we're always arguing on their terms. It is time that with a sense of urgency, we start to say, here's what we believe and why we believe it. Here's a great example of this. In the last couple of weeks, we have started to see people start to falter on this idea of reopening America. Now, I want to be very clear, as we're here with thousands and thousands of people here in this room. Lockdowns might be coming again to America. We can never allow America to be locked down again. We will never tolerate lockdowns again in our country. And you see in Los Angeles, they're already reinstituting the mask mandate. And in fact, not a fan? In fact, at Turning Point USA, we're very proud to be the first and only organization to launch an effort to defend each and every one of you, to make sure you are not mandated to get a vaccine against your will on college campuses. No person should ever be forced to get the vaccine against their will. And I'm telling you, for all the parents out there, it's time to start fighting for your kids. Because we are getting story after story after story of young people that say, Charlie, I don't want to have to take this vaccine. I'm seeing what it's doing to my family members and my friends. And yet these colleges are punishing students, putting them through a medical apartheid system, saying that if you do not get the vaccine, you're going to have to wear a mask at all times. You're going to have to live in separate dormitories. You're going to have to be separated from other people. And it's time that we realize this is not even about the vaccine. This is a freedom issue. If they can force you to get the vaccine against your will, they can force you on so many other things. All of a sudden, we have basically given up control. So I want to tell you 3 things that have really bothered me, and we're going to connect it with this thing about playing offense. Number 1 is this idea of experts, and then public health and extremism. I can't stand these terms. For example, if you want to just see a cable news segment, they say, well, we need to lock down the country because the experts on public health are very worried about extremism. Or maybe on MSNBC they say, you're very worried about extremism? Well, the experts are telling us that racism is a public health emergency. Those 3 terms combined together have done more to erode and deteriorate our freedoms and our liberties over the last year. And that's because we're constantly in this defensive mindset. And so we have to start saying, here's what we believe and why we believe it and what we're going to do about it. And that's what we try to do every single day at Turning Point USA. I want everyone to raise their hands that's in college right now. How many of you have been graded down differently because of your conservative views? How many of you lost close friends? Almost every single person here. Now, if this was a liberal convention, they'd say, what are you talking about? Our job would be easier, everybody, if we just talked about BLM Incorporated, systemic racism, if we wore 2 masks when we walked down the street and just demanded free stuff from people at all times. Instead, our job is much harder. And one of the messages I want to convey for you tonight is something we don't talk a lot about, and that is cost. Here's the one thing that all of you are going to realize as you get involved in this fight. And by the way, everything we're talking about the next couple of days is not political. We're talking about cultural issues and educational issues. Quite honestly, I don't really care that much about politics right now. I care whether or not our generation is going to love America. I care whether or not we are going to have a generation that wants to protect and preserve the greatest country in the history of the world. It's this idea of whether or not our side is going to realize we are not going to take back this country without a significant cost. This is something we don't like talking about. I bet if I went through the audience here, I could see people that lost their job because you're a conservative, that lost close friendships because you're a conservative, that got kicked out of fraternity or sorority because of your political beliefs. What does that mean? And by the way, it's the younger conservatives that are sacrificing a lot more than the adult conservatives, by the way. This is why younger conservatives tend to be a lot more, let's say, intense about their beliefs. How many of you have parents that try to tell you to calm down about your beliefs? It's because they don't realize the threat. It's because they are living in a yesteryear America where the left used to try to find common ground. We are in a completely different set of circumstances where you right now realize that they don't want to have a debate. They don't want to try to hear the other side. They want to crush you. They want to kick you out of the classroom if you have a different opinion. They want to dox your personal information. They want to train your classmates to hate you because of your skin color. And so it's time for this next young conservative generation, and this is what you're doing in such an amazing way, to realize that this country is not going to be won over without a cost. So this is my super optimistic, uplifting speech. that when you get motivated outside of this event, you might actually have to lose something. But you know what you're going to gain? You're all going to gain something far more than a job or a promotion. Here's the only thing I can promise you. You do not have to be somebody different in public than you are in private. You no longer have to leave your house and be somebody when you no longer have to put on a camouflage uniform and pretend you're not as conservative as you really are. My call for you is success out of this conference is if every single one of you can now say publicly what you say privately. What a great country that would be to live in, wouldn't it? Where all of a sudden you could say what you say here at your job. Now that's going to come with a cost. But here's what I'm also going to tell you. You are going to make friendships for a lifetime here at the Student Action Summit. You lose some friends, so what? You'll find better and real friends, not these fake liberal friends that don't want anything to do with you. It's going to come at a cost. And here's the other thing. I'm going to talk specifically to everyone kind of under the age of 35. I'm 27, Gen Z and millennials. And for the adults in the room, you're not allowed to hear this. They didn't fight hard enough. They let this happen. Now, adults don't like hearing this. They're like, oh, no, we did everything we possibly could. If that's the case, why is it that the school boards have run amok the way they are? Why is it that the corporations have been run over? Why is it that all of our apparatuses have been overrun by the left? So guess what? Now it's time, at a young age, I'm talking to the 16, 17, and 18-year-olds in the room right now. We got to start to take responsibility for the country early because we are being handed something that's subpar. I'm not a lot of adults have done a wonderful job. A lot of parents have done a wonderful job. But look at the country at large, though. If you would have asked somebody 15 years ago, school boards, do you think they matter for the future of America or not? They're like, wait, the thing that kind of like they appropriate, like how many erasers they give out at class or whatever? Now school boards are the front lines for the Take Back campaign of America against the radical anti-American left. And so here's my call to action for every young person out there. And this is what this event is all about. There's a lot of conservative events. You know what makes this event different? Students sit in the front at our events, not at the back. You know what makes our event different? Is that the students are given the preference. Because if we're honest about this, kind of the old 1980s, 1990s way of conservatism, that's not going to save America. It's going to take the 18, 19, and 20-year-olds that know what the left is up to, that are savvy enough on digital social media, that understand the cultural war with the energy and the creativity and the ambition and the willingness to fight against the people that so terribly wish to destroy us. So people say, well, Charlie, what does that look like? What does it look like to actually be able to fight back against these people that are doing these things and play offense? Here's the one thing that we have to get better at. We have to stop giving them the benefit of good intentions. I can't stand when I hear when people say, Charlie, you know that we want the liberals. We want the same thing. We just have different ways of getting there. How many times have you heard that? Let me be very clear. When you want a man to be able to compete in women's sports, we don't want the same thing, and we don't have different ways of getting there. When you're okay with 1 million abortions every single year, we don't want the same thing, and we don't have a different way of getting there. When you're okay with locking down the church and keeping abortion factories open, we don't want the same thing, and we don't have different ways of getting there. When you want to put masks on children, which is child abuse, we do not want the same thing, and we don't have different ways of getting there. Instead, it's now on us to paint an optimistic and promising vision of the America we want to live in. And we don't have to overthink this. We don't have to get too policy wonkish about this. Instead, we should say, I want a country that's enjoyable to live in, where I don't have to lock my doors at night to worry about some criminal predator walking in and harming my family. I want my children to love America again. I want to not have to doubt of whether or not a teacher that I hand my child off to is going to be teaching them anti-American propaganda. I want stuff made in America again, not in Wuhan, China. We want a self-sufficient America. We want to value people of all walks of life, including people that did not go to college, because we need more plumbers and electricians and police officers and people that work with their hands in this country. You see, we as conservatives have an amazing opportunity right now. An opportunity to forecast the future and to restore it back to things that work and that are eternal. But that also means we must be willing to call right from wrong. We must be willing to sometimes pick the tougher fights. I don't know about you, but I'm irritated at this constant retreat on how we're always taking the left's language at its own term. Let me give you a great example. I talked to a reporter recently, and she said, Charlie, what are we going to do to solve the plague of systemic racism in our country? Now, mind you, the term that she was using is as if I'm admitting it's a problem. So I said to her, well, I don't believe in trying to solve a problem that does not exist. America is the least racist country in the history of the world of people of any background, any race, any color, of any origin. In fact, only in America could someone that has so little talent with such a low IQ as LeBron James make so much money. Now, he has basketball talent, obviously, but speaking is not his strong suit. But, let me say this about LeBron. I'm so happy he's not representing Team USA in Tokyo for his sake and my sake, because I wouldn't want him to represent a country he hates. I wouldn't wish that upon anybody. He did sell out to China, you're right. And so the question is, are we now going to be, as a generation, organized and understanding of this opportunity in front of us? So here's a couple things that we have working for us. Have you realized how miserable the other side is? Have you ever seen winners that are so angry? They won. And they're the most angry people I've ever experienced, I've ever seen in my entire life. And there's something to that. It's because we as conservatives, we don't always like these fights, because this is not the most important thing to us. And this is an important lesson for all of you. That this involvement in the cultural landscape has now been moved up in the priority, but never forget the ultimate priorities, which is honoring your Creator, honoring God, building a family, building things that matter. Now, the reason we're all here and that we're going to be here for a couple days is we believe that that way of life is now under attack. Is that in some ways we're very similar to a Roman general by the name of Cincinnatus. That's where we get the term Cincinnati. Anyone from Cincinnati here? So Cincinnatus was a farmer, went and fought in Roman wars, and then went back to the farm afterwards not wanting anything in return. That's kind of what we have to do right now. We have to drop our life of convenience and of luxury and accessibility. Sometimes that means we're going to have to pay a price and a cost for that. But I could tell you this, they're doing everything they possibly can in every way that imaginable to try and suppress your involvement. You see, recently the Biden administration has come out and they have said that anyone that is spreading misinformation should be taken off of social media. And I say, aha! So they'll be removing Dr. Anthony Fauci from social media sometime very soon. Who, by the way, I said this to a reporter once and they just looked so perplexed. Dr. Fauci should be in prison for what he did against our country, and he should be locked up for a very, very long time. There's a lot of different things that are happening that we're going to be talking about the next couple days. We're going to be talking about what you can do to push back against mandatory vaccinations, what you can do to take back your school board. But one of the other things we're going to be talking about is this all-out assault on American history, the 1619 Project, or otherwise known as critical race theory. How many of you have critical race theory happening in your schools? Raise your hand. About half the hands go up, college and high school. Now, this is an opportunity for all of us because they have overplayed their hands. They have decided to embrace something that is bigoted and racist. They have decided to implement at a wide scale something that threatens the very fabric of who we are as Americans. So I'm very optimistic, actually, about the future of America if we can fight back against this form of racist and bigoted curriculum. So this is where all of you come in. Their most effective tool against you is calling you the R word. The thing that people fear being called the most is the fear of being called a racist. Now, if you are a racist, then you got work to do and you got to go apologize to some people. But let me be clear, and the media will love it when I say this. Just because you are a white person does not mean you are a racist in America. where they are now categorizing 60+% of the entire country as being racist, but they don't even realize it. You understand what they're trying to do. What they're trying to do is something that is distinctly immoral. You can either organize society as having a preference on things you can change or having a preference on things you cannot change. You see, the problem with critical race theory is that it puts the most important thing on things you cannot change, unless you're Michael Jackson who didn't change it very well. You can't change your skin color. It is immoral to organize people based on things they cannot change. In fact, we should say, you know what, I don't care about your skin color. I think your skin color is completely and totally irrelevant. In fact, if you keep on talking about skin color, you are a racist. Instead, we should talk about things that matter, things that last, such as people's spirit, their soul, their character, their actions, whether or not they're producing goodness into the world. This is the fight in front of all of us. And so the next couple days, here is my challenge for you. Not just to meet new people, not just to hear from the most amazing speakers in the movement. Let me just take a little side note. Tomorrow evening, I will put up tomorrow's afternoon agenda up against any conservative agenda in the country. We have Congressman Madison Cawthorn. We have Greg Gutfeld, Donald Trump Jr., Senator Ted Cruz, Kayleigh McEnany, and to close it all out, Governor of Florida, Ron DeSantis. So it's not just about hearing from these amazing speakers, but it's also every single one of you have to realize the greatest trick that the left has ever pulled on you is to make you feel like your individual action does not matter. It doesn't matter if I speak out in class against my professor. It doesn't matter if I start a Turning Point group. It doesn't matter if I run for student body president. You got to cut out the cynicism. I can't stand cynicism. I'm sure all of you have people that are cynical around you. There are three types of people right now in America. There are you guys who are the courageous ones that are stepping up and actually doing something about it. There are the cynical people who are always like, it doesn't matter. None of our actual action makes any difference. Then there's the third type of people. The third type of people are the people that are too weak to do what they know is the right thing to do. The people that are always afraid. They're afraid of their own shadow. Charlie, I might lose my job. You know what? You might. That's right. Is the country worth it? Courage is doing the right thing when you don't know how it's going to end up. Courage is doing the thing that is moral and that is bigger than yourself. And by the way, I'm not asking anyone to storm Normandy Beach. I'm not asking anyone to do something that generations before us have willingly done so that we can be here in this convention center. All I'm telling you is to be the same person in private as you are in public. Be the same person in public as you are in private. All I'm asking is for you is to say, you know what? I'm going to put the cost aside, and I am going to stand up against the micro-tyrants and the people that try to do everything they can to infringe on our way of life. Let me tell you about micro-tyrant super quick. A micro-tyrant is a term that we came up on our podcasts. And thank you guys for listening to our podcast and subscribing. We deeply appreciate that. A micro-tyrant is the type of person at Starbucks who has way too much power, that no one voted for, that never ran for office, that will start screaming at you because you have your mask 1 millimeter below your nose. I'll tell you a story about a micro-tyrant where I went into a Starbucks in California, and there was like this ridiculous arbitrary line, and I reached to get a straw, and she just comes up to me. She said, "Sir, you are contributing to the spread of the killer coronavirus." I said, literally, because I went 3 inches, and I said to her, I said, "No one voted for you, okay? Like, no, you have way too much power, right?" And there's a deep truth to this, by the way. The more laws, the more rules, the more sociopathic people you need to enforce those rules and laws. And we usually call those people TSA agents, but now, we have all sorts of there's some good people that work for the TSA. I have a TSA story I could go through as well, where there's this woman without a mask, looking at her phone, I try to, by the way, you guys should all play this game alongside of me. It's a lot of fun. It's how far can you get to the airport without them telling you to put on a mask? All of you guys, it's really fun. It's really fun. Has anyone actually boarded a plane before? I've heard stories of this. That's awesome. And so try to go as far as you can before they make you try to put on a mask. So we were playing this game with our team, and one of them broke through, and this woman without a mask on, playing like Tetris or whatever they do, right, passed by, and she then puts her mask back on. She's like, put your mask on or else I'm going to have you arrested. I'm like, okay, first of all, you have way too much power. Like this whole thing, like that might be a real badge, but you're not deputized in the name of the law. Like you don't have handcuffs. Like, you know, maybe if you have to like pat me down or something, like you got to just screaming. And that kind of goes to this point though, is that when we do not fight on the little things, all of a sudden you have this voluminous style of laws and rules and regulations of then whoever's in charge gets to deem who they're going to enforce against it. You see, I'm not a big rule person. I like tightly written rules that everyone can understand, maybe 10 or 12, and that's it. Instead, we have this incredibly complex structure where then whoever is in charge gets to decide who they get to go and punish and who they get to go after. So I'm not really sure I got on that topic, but nevertheless. So this is a pretty amazing thing that we have here today at Turning Point USA. And I want to say this as well. Thank you to our event staff at Turning Point USA for putting this on. And thank you for everyone who helps make this possible. So I'm going to close with this, which is, if you right now are uncertain about what you need to do and how you're going to get involved, you're going to get that answer solved in the next couple of days. But also, you know how lucky we are to be alive in a time like this, where this entire American experiment, our home, this beautiful gift that we have been given, is now at a moment where it could shatter into a million pieces. So we have been handed something that's about to fall apart. Our generation, the millennial generation, Z generation, can be known as the generation that surprised and shocked the world, that rose up in record numbers and was the generation that fixed the problems of generations prior. And I could tell you this, the amazing thing about all of you that are involved in high school and college, you know what it's going to take for you to get there. You know all of a sudden what you're dealing against. And guess what? We're the cheerful warriors that are willing to endure and persevere past that. But I start to see hope when I see gatherings like this. I see hope when I show up to school board meetings and hundreds of parents are there contesting against critical race theory and demanding that it's removed from its textbooks. I get hope when I see how many people are realizing what's really at stake here. This is not about politics, everybody. This is simply about our nation and our country and our home. I love the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Go Tampa Bay. They won the Super Bowl. Let me tell you, though, that this is uniquely different than watching an NFL football game. Watching an NFL football game is, by definition, a spectator sport. You know what makes this different? Every single one of you can be involved in this and should be involved in this. That here's the test, and you can take the test this evening. You need to write down how much you've suffered over the last year, and if it isn't a lot, you're not doing enough to save the country. It's that simple. How much damage have you incurred to try to save the republic? Now, when I meet some of these amazing young Turning Point USA students, they say, you know what? I got kicked out of my school because I wasn't going to take the vaccine, but they forced. I said, well, that's a huge sacrifice. And that is contesting for truth. But guess what? Every single one of you are leaders here, all thousands and thousands and thousands of you. And you look around, Turning Point USA is a glitch in the matrix of what the left is trying to do in our country. They would love nothing more than have all of you be obedient and afraid and silent and be at home. But you know what's actually going to be our salvation? And I'm going to turn this thing around when thousands and thousands of charismatic and energetic young leaders like you all of a sudden start to chart the path forward in a way that is going to be one of hope and freedom and of a better tomorrow. When I started this at 18 years old, 9 years ago in this city, I couldn't have dreamt in my wildest imagination we'd be filling up auditoriums like this in our Young Women's Leadership Summit and all these amazing things that have happened throughout our history. We're going to hit 1,000 high school chapters very soon. But the real thanks goes to every single one of you. And as long as we are courageous, and we are focused on what that America is and what it stands for, I could tell you this, that the left is nervous, that conservatives are going to rise up in record numbers. The left is nervous that every single one of you are going to start to take ownership for our nation, for our country, and our home. And by the end of this conference, I want every single one of you to make a commitment to do something in your local communities, on your college campuses, in your high school environment, because it's our country now, everybody. It's no longer cheering from afar. It's time for our generation to start to rise up and take back America for freedom. God bless you guys. Thanks so much.
This corridor is more than an energy project. It's an attack, the weak against the strong. Freedom of speech is under attack.
Who is Antifa, and what do they want?
In here, no one tells us what to think.
Welcome to Fox Nation's CPAC All Access Live.
This is Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus.
Give it to God. He is doing this for a reason.
This is one sick person.
There is a way to find justice.
Absolutely beautiful.
And it all leads to this.
At home with me, Paula Dean.
The future for all freedom-loving people.
I think the best way you can thank me for being a veteran is be a good American.
Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Please welcome to the stage Senator Rick Scott.
Well, first off, I'm glad you're in Florida. Thanks for being in Florida. So I got elected as governor at the end of 2010, and everybody that came to Florida, every conference I went to, the first thing I said is, spend your money. You know, who's not from Florida? You guys pay 25% of our sales taxes. We basically only have two taxes in the state. Spend your money and buy a condo. That's our other tax, property taxes. And by the way, all these people from all over the world are buying all these houses and condos. You pay our property taxes and never use it. It's the greatest business model in the world. So spend your money, buy a house, buy a condo, and enjoy the great beaches and all the weather in Florida. It's great. So here's my belief. You can change anything. So I think there's about 2,000 people here. So think about it, 2,000 people, if every one of you got 1,000 people that had not voted for conservatives before and got them to vote in the next election, guess what would happen? We win. It's as simple as that. So I believe anything is possible. Let me tell you why. I grew up in the Midwest. A single mom. I never met my dad. We lived in public housing. And my mom said, thank God you live in this country. In this country, anything is doable. You can be anything you want to be. She said, now, you're going to go to church all the time. I did. She said, you're going to be an Eagle Scout. I did. She said, you're going to make straight A's. I did. Because I did whatever my mom told me to do. And she said, get out of the house, make some money, and don't you ever get your butt fired. I remember I asked her, because we had no money. My mom lived paycheck to paycheck. She eventually remarried to an individual with a 6th grade education, great individual, fought in the Second World War, 82nd Airborne, did all the combat jumps. But did she ever take welfare? She said, I never took welfare. No food stamps. She said, we will figure this out. That's how this country was built. It was built on a bunch of individuals like my mom, and I thought my mom was the meanest, toughest person in the world. And I think she was. But as I got older, I appreciated what she taught me. Because she said you could be anything. So I wanted to be a business guy. So I had no money. But I believed I could do it. So my first business deal, I bought 2 hospitals for $61 million and borrowed $65. Because I had about $10,000 saved, my wife and I did. I believed you could do anything. And we went on with a great group of people and built a great hospital company. So in 2010, this state was, you forget what's going on now. You look at our state's open for business, our schools are open, people are moving here, everything's going great right now. You forget, in 2009 and 2010, more people were leaving this state than moving in. Does that shock you? We lost 832,000 jobs in 4 years. 4 years. Home prices dropped in half in those 4 years. So I ran on a campaign, so nobody knew me. I ran against the sitting attorney general that had been in politics forever, and then I had to run against the sitting chief financial officer that was the only statewide Democrat in the state. No one gave me a shot to win. Every poll said I would lose. But if you asked me the weather, I said, I have a 7-step plan for 700,000 jobs, 700,000 jobs over 7 years. Every economist said you couldn't do it. You can't get 700,000 jobs in this state. By finding good people to work with, right? We won our races, and we got 1.7 million jobs. Our universities were raising tuition. I said, we're not going to raise tuition anymore, because what you're doing is you're making sure every poor kid can't go to school. So I said, I care, when I was going to school, what I care about. What's this going to cost me? Do I get a job? Do I make more money? If not, I'm not doing it. So we stopped tuition increases, and by the time we finished, we were #1 in higher education, second lowest tuition in the country, but #1 according to U.S. News and World Report. Anything is doable. We paid off 1/3 of state debt. We cut taxes 100 times. So in 2018, I ran for the Senate. It wasn't the easiest year to win, but I thought, well, we did it in Florida. We should be able to do the same thing up there. It is totally different. So here's how the Senate works. First off, whoever controls the Senate, whoever's the majority, they decide what we vote on. So for right now, Chuck Schumer runs the Senate. That's right. Okay, so we don't get a vote. Republicans get no votes. There's no, if he's the majority leader for 2 years, we will get nothing to vote on that we care about. Nothing at all. These elections matter. So think about what we're doing. So I've been up there 2.5 years. Here's what we're doing. So in March, we spent $1.9 trillion. Trillion dollars. That's not a little bit of money. Now, anybody in Florida, do you remember we got the shooting at Parkland School? 17 people lost their life. Well, guess what? The Democrats gave a check to the shooter. You can't imagine that they would do this. We had a vote on border security. No, we're not going to do border security. I mean, it is the craziest thing up there. There's no logic. We're almost up to $30 trillion of debt. That's something like $250,000, $260,000 per American family. You can't keep doing what they're doing. So first, let's talk about some of the issues. Charlie talked about it a little bit. How many of you, when you think about, if you have a Twitter account or you want to put something on Instagram, do you stop and say to yourself, you know what? I wonder if I should do that. I wonder if when I finish my school, it's going to impact my ability to get a job. You ever think that way? That's crazy. We should be able to do whatever we believe in, and we should be able to change what we believe in as we learn more things. And now, as you know, you got the White House working with Facebook. to decide, what they think is truth. How did they get to make these decisions? So let me give you a bill that, how many of you have heard of HR 1S1? Yeah. Okay, so think about it. How many of you have run for student council? Yeah, okay. So here's how it would work. So you want to run for student council. Let's say it's for your high school. So here's what the Democrats want to do. Anybody can vote. You don't have to actually be in the school because we don't want to have IDs or anything. So we're going to let people from any school in the county. You want to show up to vote, get to vote. That seems fair, right? And if you say that's not fair, you have to be a racist, right? Then they want to put out these just ballot boxes and say, well, you can put as many ballots as you want in there. We're not going to monitor them at all. Oh, and then also what they want to do is they want to say somebody can go out and collect people's ballots. You get to go through and see which ones you want to put in or not and get rid of the others. So you can decide, make sure your person wins. Called ballot harvesting. Then the best is they want to take your money to give a candidate money to run attack ads. That's that bill. Now, so far we blocked it. All the Republicans, we voted to block it. But they're not over. It's not over. They're going to call us racist if we ask somebody to show their ID. All right? Remember how the Delta CEO said we shouldn't be doing that stuff, but he does it on his airline all the time? Right? So you're racist if you ask for voter ID. You're racist if you think you should have monitored ballot boxes. You're racist, right, if you don't believe ballot harvesting is okay. And by the way, Chuck Schumer, you know why he wants this bill? We're going to take your tax dollars and give it to politicians to run their races. Chuck Schumer would get $45 million in his next race. You can't make this stuff up. Now let's look at Joe Biden got elected, and he's showing up to solve all the problems, right? No. What's he showing up to do? Nothing. Okay, so let's take. You guys have followed the border, right? Okay, so think about this. How would you feel? Think about it. You have a little. How many of you? We all know kids, right? 14-year-old little boy traveled for days, one set of clothes, only speaks Spanish. Right? His family's trying to get him to America because he knows this is the land of opportunity. The cartel drops him in the middle of the desert to die. And Joe Biden does nothing to stop that. Did you see those two little Ecuadorian girls, 3 and 5 years old? All right, two little girls, they traveled for days to get there. Their mom's trying to get them to across the border. They give money to the cartel. The cartel just takes them and drops them over a 14-foot wall and walks away. Can you imagine a 3 and a 5-year-old girl, and then Joe Biden and Harris just act like, oh, it's okay. It doesn't matter. Okay, or take Cuba, something close to people in Florida. So you got a socialist country that, by the way, all the socialists in America, they don't want to call that out because people have shortages like food, water, medicine, electricity, all the basics. Because the socialists say, oh, that wouldn't happen here. It just happens other places. But now the socialists are calling them out. Bernie Sanders hasn't called out the Cuba dictatorship for anything they're doing. They're beating up peaceful protesters. They're arresting and taking away dissidents. We don't know where they are, right? And what's Joe Biden done? Nothing. There's a hashtag out there called Donde está Joe? Where are you, Joe? You want to be friends with Merkel and Macron and Boris Johnson, all these things. Get him active. Let's go. Let's get rid of the Castro dictatorship. He does nothing. So here's what you can do. On all the issues, show up. Show up. Be vocal. Is everybody going to make you happy? Is everybody going to be happy with you? No. But do you want to be in the club of a bunch of liberals? I mean, look, if you want a great future, I ran for governor and I ran for the Senate. I got kids. I got married really young. We have 7 grandsons. I want to have them It's not about if we can leave them any money. It's do we give them a chance to live the dream, take the chance I got to take. Not knowing if it's going to succeed, but you get to go bust your butt, and you know on your own, you busted your butt, and you can either do it or not. That's what we want for this country. You can do it. I was never supposed to win. I've had 4 statewide races with a primary. Never have I been ahead in the poll. Nope, the poll said there was a poll when I won the primary in 2010 by 4.5, said poll 2 days before said I would lose by 11. We won because we busted our butt. We had a great team of people and we did it. You can do it. But we've got to run, we've got to get people elected. Now, as Charlie said before, you know, it's hard to get people focused on local races. School board races, people say, oh, I don't know, does it matter? Yeah. Mayors, does it matter? Yes. City council, does it matter? County commissioner matters. Sheriff matters. They all matter. Because what we've watched in the last 14 months, these people, without the power to do what they've done, they've taken away our rights. All over the country. Telling a 2-year-old little kid they have to have a mask or you can't fly on an airline? How disgusting. I mean, look at all the things, shutting down all these businesses, killed people's ability to make money. These races matter, and you can have an impact. If you go, first thing people come and say to me, if they're thinking about running, I say, well, how many votes does it take? That's the first thing we should ask. So if you'll be shocked, if you go back to your local community and say, how many votes does it take to win a school board seat? You will be shocked at how people vote for that. You can win them. You can have your friends win them. You can win all the local races if you just show up, organize your friends, and get them out to vote. Everybody thinks it's all about money. Look, in certain races, you have to raise money to run ads. A statewide race in Florida is ridiculously expensive. But local races, it's all about meeting people, shaking hands, writing them notes, and just do it day after day after day. Knocking on doors, just do it every day. You can win elections. If you just do the school boards as an example, you're going to change the country. You can do it. If I can win a race, if a kid from public housing can go build companies and win the governor's race in Florida and Senate race, you can do anything. Now, so I've been up there 2.5 years. Last November, I got elected to be the chairman of the National Republican Senatorial Committee. All right? Okay, so how many people from Florida? Okay, how many of you want Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer to be your U.S. Senator? Okay, so we have a race. Okay, so we got Marco Rubio running, and we got Val Demings. Okay, now Val Demings has voted 100% of the time with Nancy Pelosi. So if Val Demings wins, here's what happened. Chuck Schumer will continue to be the majority leader, and guess which way she's going to vote? With Chuck Schumer. But you look all over the country. So here's the races we've got. Here's some of our biggest races. Anybody from Arizona? So Mark Kelly says he's a moderate, right? He just wants to get along. He's a moderate. No, he's not. He's not even close to being a moderate. We can win that race. Anybody from Georgia? Raphael Warnock, you think he's a moderate? Is Georgia a Democrat state? Is Arizona? No. It's our fault if we don't win these races. Just like Charlie said, it's our fault for everything. It's our fault if we have too much debt. If it's our fault if we don't elect the right people. We can do it all ourselves. If we show up, we can fix these things. So here's my job. I got to raise $1 gazillion. We got to find good people. We got to run good races. And then we've got to make sure that these races are run fairly. Okay? So in 2018, guess what happened to my race? Everybody acts like, oh, you win on election day. No, you have to win every day, sometimes after election day. When I won in 2018, and this is why you have to stay active in races, I won by 54,000 votes. So I have a 7-year-old grandson, or he's 7 at the time. He said he was so excited. He came on stage with me, and he told all of his friends the next day, his grandpa is the next U.S. Senator from Florida. He was so excited. Now, here's actually what happened. I won by 54,000 votes. My opponent didn't concede. They sent down the Democrat lawyer, Mark Elias. All right? I had 1,000 lawyers. They found 95,000 ballots in cars and trucks all over this state. And guess what? Were they all for me? No. So what we had to do was we had to be ready. We had to be ready for people doing the wrong thing. We had over 1,000 lawyers, and we had 10,000 volunteers, and we went through 2 complete recounts. I remember a few days into this stuff, I went to my grandson and told him about the recount. He said, "Grandpa, I told all my friends you won." I said, "Me too." I said, "On national television." But so what we have to do is we have to understand this is a fight. We've got to win on election day, and we have to hope to God people don't do the wrong thing. But if they do, fight like hell afterwards. Supposedly, I'm the only Republican that has beaten the Democrat lawyer Mark Elias in a recount in the entire country. And the reason we won is because of you. 10,000 volunteers. We were ready. We got ready to assume. We got ready. We were watching how they counted the ballots. We were ready if we thought people were doing the wrong thing. We went to court when we needed to go to court. So here's my plea for you. Let's win in 22. We can win. There's no limitation. So just put in perspective. If there's 2,000 people here, and every one of you can clearly impact more than 1,000 people in 22. If we do that, we'll win school board races, we'll win sheriff's races, we'll win mayor's races, we'll win Senate races, we'll win all across this country. And then we'll have the chance to govern, which is what you want. And then your job is to hold us accountable. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm glad you're in Florida. Spend your money. Let's win in 22. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Please welcome to the stage, Kat Timpf.
Say hi, I don't think he's seen, very many faces. We live in New York, masks very much still a thing. Listen, Turning Point asked me to come here and share a little bit about my story to all of you, young people. As a former young person myself, feels weird. I still feel like I'm 23. Probably helps I have the same physique as I did in middle school. Gottfeld likes to tell me I look like Tanner from Bad News Bears when I don't have my hair extensions in. He's right. He's probably watching. Hope the teeth whitening went okay today. Good luck tomorrow. So I have a lot of stories, but I kind of decided to focus on things that, maybe you could learn something from, in particular, the importance of creating opportunities versus waiting for opportunities, which, by the way, is the exact way that capitalism works. Thank you. And not being afraid to be yourself and be honest about your beliefs, even when people want to tell you that not supporting government control of something somehow makes you a bad or a heartless person. So, do any of you guys have any like post-college plans or thoughts about it? You do? You want to hear what mine were? Yeah. So I had an internship at Fox News that was 2.5 months, and then I had a housing stipend that lasted 2 months, and I'd also been accepted into Columbia Journalism School in the fall. So here was the plan. I was going to do the internship, use the housing subsidy for 2 months to rent a room I found on Craigslist, close enough to work that I could bike because I didn't have a car. Then the final 2 weeks, I was going to move in with my college boyfriend who had a job in Los Angeles, and then we were going to break up, and I was going to go to New York and go to Columbia. It didn't work out that way. So what happened was, after I was already enrolled in Columbia, less than a month before classes started, I decided there was no way I could ever afford to pay back the $80,000 loan I would need to take out on an entry-level journalist salary. So even though attending that school had always been my dream, I unenrolled, which, by the way, is part of the reason why I have like no sympathy for the pay my student loans activists. Yeah, like nobody puts a gun to your head and makes you sign those loan documents. I couldn't afford it, so I didn't go. Instead of, it's a wild idea. Instead of going and saying, well, you're not paying that back, you're a jerk. It's like, no, well, you did it. You're not a victim of your own decisions. It's not my problem. So what I did instead was I kept working at Boston Market, where I was a cashier, and I looked for higher paying work as a waitress. I found not one, but 2 waitressing jobs there, not to brag, and looked for another internship. And that's where the whole creating opportunities thing comes into play. Because at Fox, I was actually hired to be an intern for the business network, but I was completely obnoxious, making sure I ran around trying to learn like as much as I could from as many people as I could. At one point, I went into the radio, office, and I asked the women working there if I could learn how to do that, and they stared at me and said, "No one ever talks to us." But it worked out well. They were able to get me an internship at a radio station in Burbank, led to a job as a traffic reporter down the line. So doing this instead of going to Columbia, even though like everyone told me I was such an idiot because it's Columbia, was the best decision I ever made. There is a catch, which is it was hard. When that boyfriend and I broke up, also shocking, I'm sure, I had to move into an absolutely awful apartment in Long Beach, California. I had no internet, I had no TV, I had no lobby. The main entrance you could easily break into with a credit card. The water only worked half the time. For a while, my schedule was so grueling. I'd get up at 4 a.m., drive from my shanty to the Fullerton Airport, where I do my traffic reporting. Then I go to KFI in Burbank for my internship, then a closing shift at a diner, and then I would drive home, get home at 11:30, midnight, and take a nap and do it all again. I slept on a yoga mat. I didn't have bed money, and I was performing stand-up comedy, and I'll never forget the time I got scabies the same week my cat got fleas. No one should ever be that itchy. It's bad, and I eventually lost the traffic reporting job because I kept giving wrong directions. I was really upset, but they had a point. And then I eventually lost my apartment, which forced me to move in with a random Colombian family of this guy that I was sort of seeing at the restaurant I worked at, and had to have all these conversations with him that just because I needed somewhere to live, that did not mean we were together, and my Spanish was never better. That was the good part. But I was determined to not give up. I made a demo reel. One of the women from radio helped me. And I drove all the way up the coast as far as Fresno with copies of it, dropping it off with station managers, and that didn't work. But I got a call from the Washington Times, who was starting a new venture called Times 24/7. They wanted to interview me as a potential hire. And this is, again, going back to the whole creating opportunities thing. They'd actually reach out, because I remember the internship I had the summer after my junior year, where I didn't just do what was asked of me. I pitched my own story ideas, wound up having 7 front-page articles during my 10-week internship. Got the job, found a room on Craigslist again, and how am I still alive? And moved from Los Angeles to Washington, D.C. within 2 weeks. And I wasn't hired as a writer, but I made sure to write on my own time and pitch that writing to various publications. I also walked into the radio studio that was at the building and said, hey, I have radio experience. I didn't mention that it was in traffic. And I wound up with a regular segment. I kept performing stand-up comedy. No one handed me anything. I created the opportunities in that amazing and awesome way that capitalism allows you to do. Thank you. And I found some TV trainings to go to the Leadership Institute on the weekends, and that's when my life changed again. The then editor-in-chief of Campus Reform, who I knew briefly in college, saw me at a TV training, and he thought I was a natural, and he offered me a job there, writing, but with a focus on video reporting, with the idea that I would get more training and get to go on TV. It paid a lot less than the job that I had already, but I took it anyway. I hustled as much as I could. I did get a few TV appearances and did the best that I could with those, and you know, I'd be asked back, and I was living in DC at the time, and I get emails from Fox News bookers being like, we want someone on set for this segment. Are you in New York? And I would say yes, and then I would hop on a megabus and go there. You know, I made a video at a feminist conference that went viral. I eventually got asked to be on Red Eye. That's when I met Greg Gutfeld. Yeah, I was like a fan. I was such a Red Eye fan. I was so nervous that I threw up before my first Red Eye appearance, but I pretended I wasn't. And I eventually, you know, kept it getting asked back. I got a job at National Review, more Red Eye, a few auditions, a lot of vomiting later. And it was 6 months after my mom died suddenly of a rare disease, 3 days after the man I thought I was going to marry broke up with me at Coney Island while my dad was getting us another round of drinks. I signed a contract to become part of a new Fox News show called The Greg Gutfeld Show. And there's a lot more in between, and it's all very crazy. And look, my path was really unique, but the thing is, that's not a coincidence. Part of that is because in every single thing that I've done, I've made sure to always remain completely and authentically and totally myself. I'm not the typical person you'd see on any news channel, and it's been 6 years and counting without me getting fired. And thank you. I've always told other people who have television aspirations that being totally authentic is so important, but the more I've thought about it, I've also realized that being totally authentic is crucial advice for any career and for life in general. I thought about it more, and I realized the only reason I was able to work as hard as I was and go through all of the things that I went through was because I really and truly believed in everything that I was saying and everything I was doing. It makes it a lot easier to deal with hate and that sort of thing, but that doesn't mean it's always easy. Being authentic can be really tough, especially in this climate. I say this as someone who just this past year had to end my friendship with my best friend of almost a decade and a half because I was sick of being verbally abused and not treated with respect due to the way that I voted. I'm sure we've all had to do it. That's the horrible part. But you know what? It was hard, and I'm sure all of you who have been through this can relate. It's also very freeing because the things I would have had to have done and the way I would have had to go against my values and beliefs or be careful to act a certain way or to not act a certain way or to not say a certain thing, that ran counter to my would have run counter to my values. That doing and saying things that run counter to your values is always going to put a strain on you. If you're always authentic, no matter how hard things get, you can always rest on the assurance that at least the pain you're experiencing has a purpose. Thank you. And it can be hard. It can be very hard. And I say this as someone, I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican either. I'm Libertarian. And I feel like I have no home. Thank you. There's usually about 5 of us. I can feel like I have no home, even though I do now, not to brag. That was before when I did not. But I've still found it's been worth it to me, both professionally and personally. And one thing that I'm sure I have in common with so many of you, whether you are a libertarian too, like I said, there's always a couple of us, or more conservative, is dealing with people who talk down to you and talk to you as if you're a bad person, or you don't care about a problem because you do not support the government stepping in to solve it. Yeah, it makes me nuts when people assume that not wanting the government to handle a problem means you're some dumb, heartless jerk who doesn't care about the problem, okay? Sometimes, usually it means you simply don't believe the government can solve it best. Like, often it means you're thinking rationally, right? And there are so many examples of this. One of the ones where, there's a couple where people get really nasty, and one of them is healthcare. People get we're all murderers in here, right? They get so nasty with it. I don't support Medicare for all, so people on the left say, you know, that means I don't want people to have healthcare. I want them to get sick. I want them to die, which is ridiculous, obviously. For one thing, healthcare and health insurance are not the same thing. For another thing, you know, have these people ever considered, rather than accusing me of literally wanting to kill people, that perhaps I oppose it because I do care about people being healthy, and I see how badly the government continually bungles these things despite its massive budget. There's obviously countless examples of this, but a super recent one would be in COVID, those vaccine websites, right? In March, an 8th grader in Virginia created a website that made it the easiest to book vaccine appointments, you know, throughout the DC, Maryland, Virginia area. That was far easier to use, more effective than whatever the government had done. And I didn't see any numbers on this, but I'm betting whatever that 8th grader did cost a lot less than whatever the government did for their far inferior product. It's one of many examples, and you know, I do want to leave some time for questions and answers, so I'll do one more. Another example where, you know, you'll get called a racist, sexist, homophobe, whatever, blah, 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 is if you're someone who supports completely free speech. No restrictions on the First Amendment, right? None. None. And people are like, well, what about hate speech? I'm like, well, including hate speech, right? Because who defines what that is? You want the government to define that, and are you sure? Look, I've been the target of some awful vitriol throughout my career, but I still support free speech unabashedly. I don't want the government to have any say over speech, even if that speech hurts me, because I understand that laws that could be used to silence things I don't like could someday be used to silence me, okay? Everyone's not gonna always like whoever is in a position of power, and that's exactly why we need to keep speech completely free. So if we don't do that, then the right to what we can and can't say is going to be subject to the whims of whoever happens to be in power at the time. And that's very scary, because the First Amendment that keeps us free from government retaliation over speech is such an important check on government power. But let's place that quickly next to the logic of the people on the left who are saying, well, what about hate speech? You don't like hate speech? What about, they want the government involved to regulate whatever they think hate speech is. It makes zero sense. It's been so interesting that, you know, the entire time Donald Trump was the president, there were these people who wanted to crack down on people's First Amendment right to free speech, very liberal, were the same people that were saying Trump was a Nazi. So they spent 4 years saying they wanted the government to have the power to control speech while simultaneously believing that the head of the government was a literal Nazi. I don't understand how they couldn't see the irony in them holding those views together at the same time. Don't buy into these narratives that don't make sense because you feel pressure to do so. Remember that being for small government doesn't make you a jerk. It makes you sensible, okay? And if you look at what's going on in Cuba, for example, it's a far more compassionate view. Capitalism, no matter what the left says about it, is the best, and it's done more than any other system to increase wealth. The world spent thousands of years with almost no wealth creation at all, and it was only when some places started trying capitalism that changed. It gives us the amazing chance to use our own unique talents and beliefs to create opportunities, which is far better than relying on an incompetent government. Okay, I do want to leave some time for questions from you guys, because I am old and I don't ever know what you guys want to talk about, so lay it on me if you guys want to. I have a bad time following around, like someone's going to have a microphone probably.
You want to ask a question? Line up here.
What's it? Yes. Okay.
Questions?
Hi, my name is Jordan Green. Nice to meet you, Kat.
Hey, nice to meet you.
Hi, so I had one question. So you've obviously had a very difficult and strenuous life from what you've told us.
Yes.
What was the one thing that you would think of and would comfort you while living in these difficult times that motivated you to continue to do the hard and right thing?
Right, yes. So that's a great question. It's because it was bigger than myself. I'm personally not a religious person, but I really do believe that, the freedom that we have in this country that people want to take away, and, small government is so amazing. And I would think about those things, and it wasn't just like, I want to get up and I'm not getting any sleep, but I'm going to get up because I want more Instagram followers. It was about something bigger than myself and staying true to myself. And so even when it was hard, I knew it was for a purpose of something I cared about, bigger than just me. So if you're motivated by a higher power or a higher cause, whatever that means to you, then I think things become easier.
Hi. So with today's political decisiveness, how do both major parties come together, if at all possible?
It's tough, right? It's really, really tough to see. I think that what needs to happen is people need to start having conversations. Rather than, for me, even though I'm a libertarian, I'd say people on the right have been a lot more kinder and more welcoming to me than people on the left. I mean, look where I am right now. There's a lot, particularly people on the left want to use like, oh, you're a racist, to shut down the conversation. The best friend that I had, who was constantly lying to me, I called him on it, and he said that me expecting him to be honest was a sign of my privilege, which I don't understand how that makes sense, so don't ask me how. But at that point, I realized, a genuine conversation is not possible here because this is nonsense. So I think that genuine conversation is going to be the answer, and that's why I think that the cancel culture aspect of things is so dangerous, because if people are afraid to speak honestly and openly about things, that makes a genuine conversation absolutely impossible. I think the answer is genuine conversation, and you saw, I forget who the actor was, I don't know, was it Matt Damon? He's going to make this movie, and he went to Oklahoma and hang out with people who had voted for Trump, and he was like, really opened my eyes, they were so nice to me. It's like, it opens my eyes that you found that eye-opening. That's really sad. To actually listen to each other and learn from each other, and these are, nice people. That's what it's gonna take. Do we have hope to get there? I don't know, and that's the sad part. Okay, where am I going? Over here?
Hi. So as I affiliate with libertarianism as well, but I was just wondering, one of the biggest arguments I find against it is just, where do you draw the line between someone being able to exercise liberty and then affecting someone else's liberty, and how do you argue against that?
Yeah, see, that's really, really interesting to me, because when you see the way the government is run now, it's like, we could do better with at least half anarchy at this point, at least. I think, truly, I think everyone should be able to do whatever it is they want to do, as long as it's not infringing on another person's right to do what they want to do. And I think that that's such a powerful message, and I think it's such a cool thing. And I think there's so many ways it's gotten twisted. If you look, for example, at what the left calls feminism, I find it to be a little offensive as a woman. Feminism means that I am upset all the time and I need the government to step in and take care of me. No, I don't. In what way is that feminist to tell me that I need to be, and it's true, I've had people where, we do, if you watch Gutfeld, like the little intros where, they make fun of me. I've had people on, like people who are liberal, like, be like, oh, that's mean, you shouldn't say that about her. And I'm like, oh, I actually wrote that. Like, don't tell me that I can't handle myself. And I think that there's so much empowerment in freedom, and I think we really need to be really great at vocalizing that there's nothing empowering about being a perpetual victim. And I've been through all kinds of trauma, but why would I want to make that my identity? So. Hello.
Hi, my name is
Hi.
Jaden, and I was wondering, what is your advice to a student that is ready to go against my school board?
Who is what? Sorry.
Ready to go against my school board.
You're graduating next semester?
No, I'm going into my senior year of
Oh,
high
you're going to your
school.
senior year. Okay, so look, I would just say, make sure to take, look for opportunities in everything you do. Sorry, I have like a little bit of I'm getting sinus surgery on Tuesday. My hearing's a little off. Look for opportunities in everything that you do, and you can learn from so many people. College is super fun. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I had a good time. Okay, but you have to also keep in mind that that's a couple years of your life, and you need to take advantage of all the people that you can learn from, and getting a grasp of what it is that you want to do, and trust yourself a little bit. Like, trust yourself a little bit that you know what you want to do. For me, when the summer after I graduated college, I was a huge Red Eye fan, and I was a cashier at Boston Market, and I would watch the show with my boyfriend and his brother at the time, and I'd be like, I'd be great on that show. And he was like, well, you're a cashier. And I was, but look what I did. So you have to really believe in yourself, but you have to stay focused on what it is you want to do. And there's always someone everywhere that you can learn from. Even if they're not someone who you agree with exactly, you can learn something from everyone.
Okay, I'm very nervous to ask this. I am an ethnocentrist. Before I ask my question, allow me to tell you a tiny bit about what I believe. I do not believe that any race or ethnicity is inherently superior or inferior to another, nor do I believe that skin color determines your intrinsic value. That's nonsense. But I do believe that every race has the right to their homeland. I have been to 12 countries in my 19 years, and I appreciated every one of them. I love the diversity of the world, and every country is special. And one of the things that makes a nation unique is not just the geography or the wildlife, it's the people that live there, the language they speak, the religion they worship. Tourists in America should experience American culture, hear English being spoken, and speak to Americans, as in the Europeans who founded this country, as well as the Native Americans before us. And I understand that it is harder to make this case with America as it is with another country, but American identity is clearly a European one, as this nation was discovered by Spanish conquistadors, my ancestors, built by English workers and Irish slaves, and primarily settled by German immigrants. It is these people who founded America, and these people that I wish to preserve as the Americans. So my question is, would you support or oppose a system of voluntary repatriation where minorities voluntarily enter a program where we offer them cash incentives as long as they receive it in another country?
No. No. First of all, I do think it's sad that we got to a point where it's racist to say that you don't judge anyone based on skin color. I'll agree there. But I think that everybody should be, who wants to come to this country and contribute to our economy, should be welcome to do so, because that is what our country was founded on. What I have a problem with is, of course, the idea on the left that they have that everyone should come to this country and then we take care of you. I don't think we should do that. But if you want to come contribute to this economy, capitalism, baby, let's go. So.
Hi, Kat.
Hi.
My name is Ocean. What do you think is the best solution to curb attacks on freedom of speech and freedom of the press posed by tech corporations? Would you characterize your solution as more libertarian?
Yes. I think that so much of it is up to us in terms of, I think that a lot more people than would admit agree agree. I think that what happens is someone gets canceled and everyone feels the need to hop on that bandwagon and so that they don't get canceled too. In general, we need to stand up against that. Very recently, however, and even though I'm a libertarian, things have gotten really, really scary. When Jen Psaki was up there just saying matter-of-factly, oh, I'm going to tell them that this needs to be censored. I'm going to tell them that, you know, these accounts shouldn't be allowed to exist. The government gets no influence on our speech, period.
Hello, hello.
Hello.
My name is Mikhail Mikhailov, and first off, thank you so much for speaking to us. I also identify as a libertarian, and I think a belief that I hold is that there is a sort of pressure to radicalize your beliefs, more so from the left than the right, but nevertheless radicalization. And I wanted to ask, do you think there's a step students should take to, I guess, ease that radicalization in their community?
Right, look, the thing is, I think authenticity does go a really, really long way, and not backing down. I remember I was on TV the other day talking about like vaccine passports, and I was like, no, absolutely not. And then I don't know who the Democrat that was on the panel with me was like, oh yeah, well, driver's license. I was like, well, I'm not sure about those either. And they didn't like know what to do with that. But that's what I think, and I have reasons for thinking that, so I said that. I think when you're a libertarian, or a conservative even if you're not a libertarian, you're more conservative, there's so much pressure for you to tone it down. When the left, so much of what they do is they're not arguing based on anything reasonable. They'll have a story about somebody and, oh, listen to this sad story, and if you still think what you think, then you hate this like sick person or whatever. And when it's completely ridiculous. And you have to just be so careful to not sort of shrink in the face of that. And I know it can be really hard. I've lost, not just random Twitter trolls, I lost my best friend who, you know, he knew me since we were teenagers, and I believed the same thing the entire time, but Trump broke people. He would, I don't know what happened. He's everything, you know, if I don't live and breathe just saying Trump's the devil, then I'm a bad person, which I'm obviously don't believe that. I'm not gonna do that, so bye. And I think that it's a bully tactic. I think that so many of these people, the social justice warriors, at the end of the day, what they're truly saying is, I have these feelings and the whole world needs to revolve around my feelings, and that makes me a nice person. No, that makes you selfish. And I think that just really not being afraid to do that, and it's simple, but it's also not, because it is a big ask, and people will have a problem with that, but I think the more people who are honest about those things, I think that really, truly, the better off we will be, because they do not have logic and reason on their side. They have bully tactics with buzzword salads of, you know, privilege and this and whatever, systemic and this and blah, blah, blah. That's all they have. And they've got to stop being, you know, getting away with bullying us so easily. They got to at least work harder. They don't do any research. So, thank you. Whew. My weave is like a helmet, and it's getting a little hot. Go ahead.
Hey, Kat.
Hey.
My name is Reagan Eastlick. I go to a really liberal high school. It's really bad.
Yeah.
And I've done a couple things. I've started a TPUSA chapter. We have 70 members.
Everyone says you're a racist, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I've gotten death threats and all of it. I also started a website, and I put a lot of my writing up there. We have 1,500 visitors each month. So it's done really well. But my question is, like you were saying earlier, a lot of Republicans are very grating to the other side, Trump being the prime example. How do I and others in high school and college win over converts? Because it seems so difficult nowadays.
Look, it really is difficult, but it's also people question things more than you think. I have a friend who, you know, he's in a really liberal industry, and we were all at a party, and and he all of a sudden he was meeting some of my friends there from work and this and that, and he was like, I think I think I'm like kind of conservative, but like don't tell anyone. Like, it's more common than you would think because again, like I was saying, it's a lot easier when you do have logic on your side, when you do have facts on your side. You know, look at when the government gets involved, things get more expensive, things get more oppressive, and their arguments make no sense. And I'll go back to, for example, what's happening in Cuba. So many of these social justice people, they're the people who will say, if you're a white person and a person of color tells you said something racist, no matter what the reason is, you have to agree with them because you're white and you don't get an opinion. But then they're also telling people, saying that people in Cuba are not really protesting communism. Like, it's COVID, or they really hate the United States and the American flags. That's just a coincidence. So they're like, capitalism-splaining to the people of Cuba. So they're total hypocrites who use bully tactics and scare tactics to try to get everybody who believes in small government to shut up. And so the best thing you can do is just not shut up. Don't make it that easy for them.
Hi, my name is Noah. I'm actually a Turning Point president, chapter president. I'm also the high school coordinator for my Midwest region up in Illinois, around there.
Hi.
And my quick question for you was, I'm an aspiring politician. I wanted to know if you have any advice for that, because I plan on making some big moves in the future, so.
Oh, that is good for you. Good for you. I feel like I could never be a politician just because, like, I don't know. I never did anything like that bad, but like, there's probably pictures of me in college that someone could find. But I think, again, something, and again, as a libertarian, there's things I liked about Trump and things I did not like about him, which also is like how I felt about every president as a libertarian. It wasn't like, again, he broke so many people. He was like, when he didn't do anything wrong, he didn't say sorry, which I think is something that a lot of us can really and truly learn from, because that broke a lot of people. One of the things that I will never forget about his time as president was when he reposted that meme of him putting a medal on that dog, and like the Washington Post and New York Times had their top reporters be like, exclusive, that didn't really happen. It's like, yeah, it's a meme. Like, it's a meme, and that they were being serious. I think, again, people are going to be tough, and I think going into politics as someone who is on the conservative side, you already know what they're going to paint you with. You're a sexist, you're a racist, you're a homophobe, when really they on the other side are telling me as a woman I can't live without the government and can't, handle myself without the government. So that's sexist to me. So don't accept anyone else's narrative of you, is what I would say. And I think we can also really learn a lot from, if you screw up, absolutely apologize, take accountability, but if you don't. Because look what happens when you apologize. It's not like they ever forgive you. Look at Chris Harrison. Look at all these people. They do apology after apology, and they're like, great job, you're still canceled. So, if you did something wrong, apologize, but, don't apologize if you didn't do anything wrong, because there's no forgiveness with them. They're tolerant, but that's only a word they use to describe themselves, because in what way are they? So. Hello.
This will be the last question.
Sure.
Hi, I'm Raymond. I was given the opportunity to host a local and state politics show at my school.
Can you speak up a bit? Sorry, it's my hearing.
Yes, I was given the opportunity to host a radio show at my school focusing on local and state politics. I was, for lack of a better term, muzzled. How do I combat this? I was told to send in an agenda, and anything that had a partial conservative spin or shining light on that was immediately turned down by the powers that be at the school. How do I combat this? So,
speaking just generally, what I will say about the muzzling type thing is obviously happening. Even look at big tech. Look at all look at what's going on a larger scale. I think it can make things really, really tough for anybody. But I also think that that's part of the story. And it kind of proves that small government people are correct in feeling as though they are being muzzled. Why are you so scared of my ideas, right? And it's not a question of, okay, they might end up censoring things that are correct. It's like they already did. Like, remember everyone's account got deleted or censored if they mentioned the lab leak theory, which is like the most sane theory of all time. Like, oh, this virus emerged in this neighborhood that has a lab full of this virus. Maybe it came from there. Only when there is such this groupthink that tries to shut people up could that have ever been considered crazy. So I think to keep pointing that out, and I think that it's getting worse, which is bad, but in some ways good, because it's so obvious what's happening, and it makes it a lot harder for them to say that it's not. That makes sense. All right. That's my time, guys. Thank you so much. It's so good to see you. So good to hang out with you. Bye. See you guys.
Please welcome to the stage, Dan Bongino.
Shooting off bottle rockets? This is great. Thank you. Thank you. I really, for what it's worth, I really sincerely appreciate. I don't get out of my house a lot. I think for those of you who went to the Palm Beach event I spoke at, I said the same thing. Good to see you back. I don't leave my house much, so thank you. I go from like zero energy the entire week in my home studio to this, and it means a lot. It really warms my heart. Thank you very much, and thanks for coming out. I appreciate it. Thank you. And I want to start by extending another thank you to you all. I mean this. Listen, guys and ladies in here, it's really, really hard these days, people your age, to be out on college campuses and high schools and do what you do. It wasn't when I was younger. It wasn't. I mean, I grew up during the Ronald Reagan era. You know, it was no big deal. You said you supported Reagan, everybody was like, great. You want to have a yodel or a Hostess cupcake? Like, nobody cared. It's true. I ate a lot of yodels. But that's not the way the world is now. We live in this cancel culture society where you're under attack all the time, and you have earned so much of my respect. You have so much guts coming out here, broadcasting to the world on your Instagram, your TikTok, Snapchat, Twitter, whatever it may be. You've got a ton of guts, and you have my sincere gratitude for doing it, because the fight for freedom is on that campus, and you're the ambassadors, man. You're the ones taking it out there. It's easy to be some sucker lemming going off the, oh yeah, CRT, the white man's the oppressor, all that other crap. You're not doing that. You're not doing any of that garbage. You're out there fighting for real principles, liberty and freedom for all, and it's impressive. And I want you to know you have the respect of people like me and a whole lot of other folks. So a big thank you for coming out. It means a lot. True. So I wanted to start today. I was watching I love boxing. That's why my nose looks, I boxed for years. So if you ever see my nose from the side smashed in, you know, because I wasn't a very good defense guy. You know, you're supposed to not block the punches with your face. The whole idea is to like take them in the hands. So I block them with my face and my nose a lot. That's why it looks like this. But I love boxing, and I was watching this show on Showtime, and this famous boxing trainer, Teddy Atlas, I don't know if you know him or not, but he had this great line. He said, you know, truth comes to people in a lot of ways, but it comes to you really fast in the boxing ring. And if you've ever boxed or fought or did MMA or Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or whatever, I was just talking to Charlie on his podcast about this, as a matter of fact. We taped an episode. You know what he means. Like, it's one thing to, you know, spout off at the mouth, but you're in a time right now where truth is coming to you fast because you're in the boxing ring. Oh, granted, you're not fighting, you're not no one has gloves on, there's not a referee, but you're out there on your college campuses and high school right now, and truth is coming to you real fast right now because it's being forced on you. A lot of you, listen, come on, let's be honest, a lot of you went to college to learn, but you want to have a good time. There's nothing wrong with having a good time. But a lot of you don't have that luxury. You go to your college campuses, you're under constant assault, teachers, students, these clubs, these race hustlers out there, all these other people. You wanted to go there, enjoy yourself, learn some life skills, and you found yourselves on the front line of an ideological war you didn't ask for. You didn't ask for this. This fight came to you. You didn't go to it. And you stood your ground anyway. Remember that line. Truth comes to people in a lot of ways, but it comes really fast in the ring. You all are in the ring right now. You've had to grow up way too soon. A lot of us did. We wanted to go to party a little bit, learn some stuff. Great. No, you don't have that luxury. You guys and ladies out there are the ambassadors for freedom we need right now to change the downward descent this country's taking. Truth comes to everyone, but it comes real fast in the ring. So what's in the ring now? I want to address a couple issues, a couple of things I think. I could talk about a ton of different stuff, but I only have about 20-something minutes with you. I see 3 huge issues going on right now that you all are going to have to take the fight, get in that ring, and truth's going to come to you real fast. You're going to find religion fast. You are. I wish it weren't the case, but you will. The first one is this fight with the big tech. Folks, this is no joke. This is the issue of our time right now. This big tech war, I would make the case to you and make a strong case to you that big tech is the single biggest enemy of freedom and liberty in this country today, even bigger than the government. That's not a joke, as Joe Biden says, but never means. That's not hyperbole. No, that's really not hyperbole. Joe Biden always says that when he plans on doing something hyperbolic. That's not an exaggeration. Why do I say that? You may say, you're a conservative. Of course, government's the biggest impediment to free speech right now. They have all the power. They got the guns. They got a monopoly on force, right? Yeah, they are. Big government's a big problem, always has been. But here's the irony. You know, if government infringes on your constitutional rights, right, you can sue them. And you'd probably win. What are you going to do about big tech? How many people in this room have either been shadow banned, kicked off a platform, fact-checked, or anyone not? That's a better question. This is going to be like one person, and it's probably the liberal reporter from Salon. He's like, yeah, me, I've been good. Yeah, I'm good. I reported on the PP tape hoax forever. Nothing happened to me. Of course it didn't. We know. We get all that. They're silencing you, and what can you do? The answer is, let's be honest, you feel powerless, don't you? Now, there's me and other guys like me who are doing things to build this alternative ecosystem where you can go out and feel free to speak your mind, an idea we thought was kind of standard in America a few years ago, but we're not there yet. We're still building it out. It takes a lot of money and a lot of people and a lot of time. But this is a big, big deal, this fight against big tech. It is huge, and we need you all to stay in that fight. Don't exit. Don't exit a lot of these. I exited Twitter a little while ago. I don't do anything on there except my team puts some stuff out. But I need you to stay on there and continue to engage in that fight. Fight number 2, this critical race theory. Folks, it's not a talking point. This isn't some, I love how they play the euphemisms game. When it was illegal immigration, they were like, no, they're undocumented citizens or whatever. It's like, did they spy on Trump? It wasn't spying, it was undocumented surveillance. Like, I love how they play the euphemisms game. They play these word games. They're like, critical race theory doesn't exist. Meanwhile, there's actually a book out there by Delgado called Critical Race Theory. Like, just look it up. Go to like barnesandnoble.com, not Amazon. I just talk about big tech. But go and just look it up. Like, that's the actual name of the book. This guy, Ibram Kendi, who has been lecturing school boards forever, he's said in his own writings, like, I've been inspired by critical race theory. But why is this so dangerous? Because I would assume many of you here, if not most of you, are here because you're either conservatives, libertarians, Republicans, or candidly, unaffiliateds who just believe in crazy ideas like liberty and freedom. But the whole essence of liberty and freedom, the whole essence of it is that we, us, make no mistake, we're the real freedom fighters in this room. I mean it. Hold your chin up high and be proud of yourself. We are the freedom fighters in this room. The essence of freedom and liberty is that it's granted to us by God, to everyone. It doesn't matter what color your skin is. It doesn't matter what your religion is. It doesn't matter what your sexuality is. It doesn't matter. We are here, us in this room, to say regardless of where you were born, regardless of the melanin content of your skin, what God you worship, what sexual organs you have, we don't care. We believe that God put his hand on your right shoulder and said, you are born free. Free. You're born free. Yes. You were born free. And there's nothing government can do about that. You were born a free thinking entity, touched by the hand of God. And that, make no mistake, be damn proud, is what you all in this room represent. Don't accept the stigmas of the left and their nonsense talking points and their endless attacks. You're the ones that defend every single soul in this room, regardless of where they're from or any other of those superficial characteristics. We defend that. That is not what critical race theory is. That is why it is so dangerous. It will shred this country to pieces. This place will look like The Walking Dead. You'll have Officer Rick walking around if we let this continue. Can you imagine? I mean, think about this, right? I mean, serious question. How long do you think before Martin Luther King is canceled? I'm not joking. Like he said, you know, we have to judge people by the content of their character. How long before he's canceled? I'm only half kidding. Like, we're probably only a year away from people like, yeah, we got to get rid of those. Let's cancel the holiday and everything. We can't do that. This is where we've come. How pathetic that this country that had its scars, no doubt, should never run from that, ever. There's no reason to pretend none of that happened. It did. You didn't do it. Your parents didn't do it. But it happened. And it happened here. It's an important part of our history. It's an ugly one. We recognize it. You know what the difference is? We beat it. We beat it back. Because that's the America we live in now. Because brave souls, men and women, forfeited their lives away, shed blood, pieces of themselves, sometimes left their entire lives overseas, buried in foreign graves to fight for freedom here and overseas, to get to a place where we could say, yes, we are all touched by the hand of God, by freedom and liberty. We are there. Can we do more work? We can always do more work. Folks, listen, we're all sinners, man. We're all sinners. I'm a Christian. Your faith is up to you. I don't ask. It's your business. But there was only one perfect person who walked the earth. It was Jesus Christ. And it ain't me. It's not me. It's not me. Okay? I love Jesus. I say it all the time, and I mean it. You know? And he was perfect. I'm not. Okay? And that's the thing about a country. We're 330 million imperfect people trying to work to make this place better, and we have made tremendous strides. And you want us to go back to a place where we look at the guy next to us, we meet him in a classroom on a first day, whatever it is, you get into college, and you're supposed to make a snap judgment according to CRT. You're gonna make a snap judgment because of his skin color? No, not today. Not on my watch, not tomorrow. Next week doesn't look good either, and we gotta do something about it. It's not good enough to talk. You know, talk is great, like that's what I do for a living, but if it doesn't motivate action, it's useless. So we talked about big tech, but in the CRT fight, guys, ladies, your school board, that's the fight right there. If you don't understand that, you're in the wrong room. That is your fight right now in your school boards. The liberals have taken advantage of our apathy on school boards for decades. They have indoctrinated our kids. They have decimated the public school system. And sadly, many of us sat back and watched. We got very focused on national elections, bigger issues, tax cuts. Hey, I'm all for them. I'm an economic liberty guy. But folks, tax cuts aren't going to matter if we don't have a damn country. And we're losing it. We're losing it. We're losing it. Now. It's happening right now. Local action matters. I know it's exhausting. You got a lot on your plate. You're probably taking 4 or 5 classes. Many of you are holding down jobs. Listen, I've been there. I did it. I know what it's like. You know, I swept floors in a Key Food and stocked aisle 4, paying my way through college. It sucks. I get it. I've been there. I went back twice more. Not like Chris Farley from Tommy Boy. He was like, remember Chris Farley? How long you been in college? 7 years. So you got a BA? No, not yet. No, I went back a couple times. I got a couple more graduate degrees. I worked really hard. I get it. It stinks. I know you're tired. But when that school board meeting comes up in your town, you have to go. There's no easy way out. Oh, I'm tired. I don't want to hear the excuse. I'm really sorry. You want a pity party? Talk to someone else. I'm not your guy. Oh, Dan, what did you do? I ran for office 3 times. I did it. It didn't work out. It didn't work out. But I did it because I said, that's kind of bullshit, and I'm going to go and run and do something different. And you don't have to run, but you got to do it yourself. That is where it's at. If we can't agree that these school boards teaching this garbage have to go, I'm telling you, all is for naught. We can argue all we want about protecting life in the womb, the Second Amendment, for freedom and liberty for all. If big tech doesn't let you talk and your kids are getting pumped into a school where they teach them to judge everyone by the color of their skin, what's the point? Burn the whole thing down. It doesn't matter. It's all lost. And I want you to understand on this issue, you are on the right side of this. Do not be cowed. Do not let any of these people teach you out of it. You, yes, you right there, just raise your hand and put your fist up. You're the warriors for freedom and liberty for all. The racists are on the other side. That's not a talking point. That's a damn fact. You're on the right side of this. You, every one of you, every one of you, you are on the right side of this. So we hit the war on big tech. We hit CRT, school boards, and the danger of it. Folks, one last thing, one point I want to make, the third point here, the dignity of work I want to get to in a second. But remember, a lot of us are conservatives. Some may be libertarians, some may be Republicans, whatever. I'm not interested in the labels. It doesn't matter to me. But being a conservative is about conserving things. The Republican Party's been lost for a long time. I'm sorry, they have. We've been lost for a long time. We get lost in these wonky debates. You know, listen, big tech, we can't go after big tech, they're private companies. What the hell are we preserving? If we allow this to happen, the public space, which is supposed to respect free speech, right? If we allow monopolistic companies to not let anyone speak freely, then what are we conserving? What's the point? What is the point? We have to conserve stuff. I say that in light of the third thing I want to talk about, because we have to re-anchor ourselves. We should be the party. Listen, again, I love tax cuts. I'm an economic libertarian like you wouldn't. I wish the government was making only enough money for the military and the court system. That's it. I am a but folks, candidly, that shouldn't be our brand. It should be something we fight for, but that shouldn't be our brand. There's a difference between a message and messaging. And I'd make the case to you strongly that the drift of the Republican Party away from its mooring into the open ocean of chaos happened when we forgot the distinction between message and messaging. We've always had a good message. Economic liberty, healthcare liberty, school choice, but we never quite got the messaging right. The analogy a friend of mine used to use is, you know, we'll walk in a methadone clinic and we'll talk about the Laffer curve. Listen, the Laffer curve accurate. It's great. It's a great way to think about taxes. But people in a methadone clinic don't want to hear that. They're in a crisis time in their life. The message was great. The messaging was awful. This third thing I want to talk to you about, the dignity of work, is where I think we got lost. We fell into, I don't know if it was in the 90s, in the post-Bill Clinton era, but we fell in this, what I'll call like a compassion trap, where we let the left try to outdo us on compassion. And it was like, well, I'm going to give you extra Medicaid. I'm going to give you SNAP. I'm going to give you welfare. I'm going to give you Section 8. And the Republican Party's like, we'll give you more Section 8, like bidding up like it's the freaking Price is Right or something. We'll give you even more unemployment benefits for 50 weeks. How about 51? How about 122? No. We're thinking about this thing all wrong. We got off track. Our message should always be about the dignity of work, of work, of work. Paying people to not work who can work. Again, I'm not talking about people who are disabled. We're a rich country. I'm not talking about people who, there are tragic cases we can handle all the time. Kids who've been left without parents. I'm talking about able-bodied adults. Paying able-bodied adults to sit on their ass and not work is not compassion. Not only is it not compassion, it's evil. Evil. Use that word. It is evil. Don't get confused. Oh, it's not compassion. No. It's beyond not compassion. I'm telling you, it is the E word, evil. You have stolen from them the dignity of, I think it was Friedman who said, the ability to go out and use your hands and your efforts to transform the world. You have stolen from them the soft skills of dealing with a manager at a job, knowing how to show up on time, how to brush your teeth and show up. I mean, listen, I mopped the floor. It was the cleanest damn floor in Key Food every night. That was my floor. That was my floor. Mop that floor. I was proud to mop that floor. I stocked those shelves, leveled those shelves every night. Remember, you used to put some older folks here, used to have the sticker guns. They don't do it anymore. Everything's scanned. Used to put little stickers, prices on the cans. I was proud of that. Put the stickers in the same spot. Didn't have to. Could have done it all haphazard. Every time, same spot. There was dignity in that. There was dignity in working in aisle 4 in Key Food. I worked for Mr. Victor. He was an immigrant from Cuba. Guy was in his 60s. He was the aisle 4 manager. You know, I have a big scar on my forearm right here because I was cutting a display in front of Mr. Victor and got distracted with a new razor, and I sliced my arm open. You know, it taught me a valuable lesson. Don't cut your arm open. It hurts. All right, that's not one of the lessons I'm talking about tonight, but the dignity of work matters. How to show up on time. How to take instructions, even sometimes when they suck. How to be a coworker to people. You know what? How to be a coworker to people, sometimes you got to be a shoulder to cry on. And you know what? Sometimes you got to be a shoulder to not cry on because you're crying too much. Go back to work. You learn that at work. You learn that at work. Where do you think you learn that? Sitting in your house? You learn that at work. There's dignity in work. Folks, I'm telling you, I cleaned mausoleums in Mount Carmel Cemetery in Cypress Hill in New York. It was really nasty. So if you didn't pay for the mausoleum for like 3-4 years, they wouldn't open it. So when you open a door for the first time, spiders would fall down on you. I'm not joking. There'd be cobwebs everywhere. You'd have the smell of death around. It was not the greatest job in the world. I cleaned those mausoleums for 3 summers. Those were the cleanest damn mausoleums you ever saw. I'm telling you, there was dignity in that. There was dignity in that. The left doesn't see that. The left walks in and they see you with your mop and aisle 4 and Key Food, and that guy was me. That guy was me. I saw some of those looks. Thankfully, not a lot. The neighborhood I worked in was full of good people. They throw you $1 tip when you bag their groceries. That dollar meant a lot to me. An egg sandwich was $3. That would be my only food for the day sometimes. That dollar meant a lot. Meant a whole lot. But I got those looks once in a while too. You're mopping the floor and that person walks by and looks at you like, look at this loser. And I think back now and I'm like, you know, you were the real loser, not me. You were the loser. How dare you look down on these people? How dare you? Who do you think puts the food on your table? How do you think the food gets there? Some trucker at 3 o'clock in the morning who hasn't seen his kids in a week drove that food. What do you think it got there? By the food ferry? Who do you think got it there? What do you think this is? Like that Rock movie where he's the tooth fairy and he just dropped it off, bro? How do you think this happened? Some farmer produced that. Some guy who busted his ass to produce that can of corn you're eating, some trucker trucked it. Some kid mopping a floor kept the damn floor clean in the place so you didn't get an infection when you walked in an unsanitary supermarket. That's why you eat. That's why you eat. There's dignity in that. There's dignity in that. There's pride in that. There's pride in the fight. That everyday battle, labor, those calloused hands. Guys, ladies, that's our message. Forget about handouts and Section 8 and welfare and all this. We've had that conversation. No one's going to go poor in this country. Our message has to be about the dignity of work and effort. That matters. We should always be there for people fighting a good fight. And if I may, just one more comment on this. It's, also, the people out there struggling with things like addiction, fighting every day, that's a nasty thing. It's affected me personally through the network of people in my life. We're there for them too. This isn't a political conversation here I'm having with you. This is an ideological one. Remember what I told you with CRT, I'm telling you again. We're the party of big R God-given rights for everyone. These people are struggling. I see there's a guy in the gym. I'm not going to say his name, obviously, but he's fallen off the wagon like 4 or 5 times. I ran into him in a restaurant this weekend. He looks great. I talked about him on my podcast about 2 years ago. I said, you know what? You ever need a helping hand? Us. We're there for you. Not these other guys. I don't want to give you a check. I don't need to give you a Section 8 check. You know what I need to give you? I need to give you an ear so you can talk and I can be there for you. That's what we do. That's what we do. Because these people have dignity too, and their home is here in this movement, not in a movement that says, hey, take a government check and get the hell out of here. That's not what we do. We don't need to cut you a darn check. We need to give you an open ear and a chance at a friend when you needed one. That's what we do. And you need to have this conversation out there on these campuses about dignity in every human being, dignity in work, and how going out there and transforming the world, that's the way we move this country forward. We're in a bad place right now. We're in a really bad spot. I wish I could tell you otherwise, but I'm not here to blow smoke. But that's not an excuse to back down. This country has a very storied history, folks, and before we do any pity parties, oh, Biden's in office, things are terrible, I'm not interested. You're looking for a pity party, find a new speaker. We fought a revolutionary war against the greatest military at that time in the history of humankind against the British Empire. We won. That was a one... For you historians in the room, you know what I'm saying is true. That was a 1 in a million chance that would happen. Tell me again this country's not touched by the hand of God. Tell me, and I'll call you a liar. I will call you a liar. There is no way we should have won that. None. Again, you want a pity party for the situation we're in now? Imagine eating your shoe leather in Valley Forge, Washington, freezing to death. Oh my gosh, my big screen doesn't work. Not interested. No pity parties. Dust off. Get up. Off the mat. One more round, always. Then we had the War of 1812. Saved by a thunderstorm in Washington, D.C. We could have lost again. But we didn't. We fought a devastating civil war to wipe the scourge of slavery, the stain off our nation's history. Hundreds of thousands died. Casualties somewhere near the 1 million mark. We're still here. We're still here. You had World War II veterans like my grandfather, right? They get off these boats in Omaha Beach. Many of them mowed down right away. 18-year-old kids, gone like that. Boat drops, that's your last breath. What's your problem? My grandfather, I don't like to get choked up, but he was a great man. He died, but when I graduated the Secret Service Academy, some of you may have heard this story if you listen to my show, but we all stayed in one hotel. He came down to watch the graduation because we just didn't have any money. It was the Doubletree Alexandria. So I stayed on the pull-out couch, and my grandfather and grandmother had the bed. And at about 2 o'clock in the morning, my grandfather just lets out this primal scream. And it was weird, like nobody reacted. So I woke up the next morning, and I'm like, Dad, what was that about Grandpa? Like he got up at 2 in the morning and screamed, and nobody did anything. And my father said, yeah, he's been doing that since the war. He's like, it's just this. He never talks about it. He never mentioned it again. My father was named after my grandfather's battle buddy that died. Never spoke about it again. So I ask you again, what's your problem? You want a pity party from me? Hard pass. Freedom's sitting there right in front of you for you to go take it back. You have the power right now. You're the new renegades. You are. You're the new land of misfit toys. And you should say that proudly. You're not the lemmings anymore. You have freedom right in front of your face. Get sitting there, ready to fight for, and it's your choice to take it or to turn a blind eye. You're not going to be the popular kids. Olivia Rodrigo, great song. She's not going to sing a song about you. You're not going to be invited backstage to any concerts. You're not going to be like the Cool Kids, that song. I used to love that song too. You're not going to be the cool kids. You're going to be the misfits, the renegades. But history's going to look back on you like they've looked back on prior generations of freedom fighters. I'm telling you, because you are going to grow up and you're going to say, I had the opportunity to do the easy thing, and I did the right thing. And I taught it to my kids, and that's going to matter. I'll leave you with this thought, and then I'll have to exit stage right. Listen, I've been through a lot over the last few years. There's no pity parties here, but you start to see the world a different way when someone comes up to you I was 45 at the time, and goes, hey, you got cancer. You're like, what? I don't smoke, barely drink, sometimes. Never did drugs, that I promise you. Eat good, I work out, and doc says, hey, you got this big lump in your neck, and it's cancer. And you're like, really? Like, that's kind of crazy. I definitely give 2 thumbs down to cancer, so Yelp reviews, no good. Definitely 2 thumbs down. But things change. I was driving home after they took this tumor out of my neck, and I tell this story often because I want you to take it and go forth and realize that every minute of your life is a gift. I know you don't see it because you don't know your expiration date. Thank God. But what if someone told you tomorrow? What if someone said to you tomorrow, by the way, you have 3 months? Would you do things different? Well, when someone says to you, hey, you got cancer, and you don't know what kind it is, and you start reading online, everybody becomes a doctor online, you're like, oh my gosh, I got 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. Thankfully, it was, again, no pity parties. I'll be fine. Everything's good. But I'm driving home, and I get this thing taken out of my neck in New York. And I have kids. I got 2 daughters. And I broke down on the plane. It was the first time I cried. I'd found out about 2 weeks earlier, but really it just was like, it was almost like I was living in a movie, like it didn't really happen. And I get on a plane, and a guy recognizes me from Fox, and he's sitting, I'm on the left side of the plane. He's a row ahead of me on the right. He knows what's going on because he heard on my podcast, I can tell. So he just gives me the look, and I melt down on the plane. I don't mean crying, I mean like crying. The cry, where it's like, like that one. And I'm trying not to make a scene because there are people around. And, you know, I get off the plane and a guy just taps me on the elbow. And he's like, he didn't have to say anything. But I get in a car driving home, and they're building a shopping mall near my house. And it occurred to me for the first time, because I didn't know what kind of cancer it was, I was like, oh shit, like, I'm never gonna see what goes in that shopping mall. And that's like the weirdest thought in the world, because you don't know your expiration date. My point to tell you this is not a pessimistic story, but an optimistic one. I'll be fine, and even if I'm not, it still's not gonna change a damn thing, because I was given the gift by God, a gift of understanding that we all have an expiration date. Like, that's a gift? No, it is. Because I'm telling you right now, there are many of you in the room, no, not this room here, but some, you get tired one day, you can take an extra class, you can go out to a Republican meeting, you can do an activism thing. I know it. You don't do it, you're tired. Don't waste a single moment. Don't. Because you seriously don't know if the person next to you, how long they'll be. You have no idea. And when that expiration date appears, all of a sudden you start thinking of things real quick, real different. If I had to give you one piece of advice, I'd say there's a book, The Black Swan, I read a long time ago. It's a great book, but it's about other stuff. But there's a point in the book where this guy's talking about some philosophies about life, and he tries to figure out this thing, all these successful people, like, what do they have in common? Were they the best looking? Were they the smartest, the most athletic? You know what he figures out? The one common trait to every successful person he did some kind of bio on? What do you think it was? It was none of that stuff. You know what it was? They all collected opportunities. Every time there was a meeting, every time there was some extra class to take, every time there was some dopey cocktail party someone invited to you had no interest in going to, those people went. And you know what happened? After 1,000 stupid parties they went to that they thought were a waste of time, they met that one person who changed their life right there. They all collected opportunities. And when you get the gift of an expiration date, you'll start collecting opportunities too, because you'll realize you don't have 1 second to waste. Last thought, I promise. I know I said it, but I do got to run. Guys, listen. I know it's been a rough couple years here. I get it. You and I have seen it all happen. The descent of this country into like ideological madness, the near bankruptcy. I get it. There's no pity parties here. I'm an optimist about the future of the United States. It was a 1 in a million chance we would exist as a country. God said you will. He won't let us fail. He's not going to let us fail. He's not going to let us fail. He's not. So no pity parties. But here's the thing. He's not going to let you sit back either and be a spectator and just buy a movie ticket. He won't let us fail, but you damn well better get off your butts and help him fix it, because he needs his foot soldiers out there. And you cannot quit. Politics, no matter how bad it gets, whether now, 2022 or 2024, don't ever forget this analogy. Politics is not a golf game, okay? A golf game, you can quit. The guy behind you doesn't care, he plays through. The guy in front of you doesn't care, you're not affecting him at all. The guy who owns a golf course already got his money. That is not politics. You can quit in golf. Nobody cares. Politics is boxing with no ref and a locked cage. When you're in that ring and you quit, the other guy's still kicking your ass. He's not going to stop. They will never stop, ever. The left has figured out a long time ago that in a war of attrition, they think they'll get you all to move on. Don't ever move on. Get up, go out and be activists. Do something, don't say something. Go out, get out there, pick something to do and do it. Don't talk about it. Do it. Go out and do it. Don't accept the silver medal. Go for the gold. Go out and do it. Your action matters. Your voice matters. Go out and get it done. God bless you in the fight. I will always be there with you. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Everybody, wasn't Dan awesome? Amazing. And I got to tell you, Dan works harder than anyone in the business, and he wanted to be here tonight. and it just means so much. And he's a phenomenal role model for all of us here. And so, guys, thank you so much for a wonderful opening session. Get here early tomorrow morning if you want to come to the optional church service that we have with Pastor Rob McCoy. Have a great night, everybody. Thank you guys so much, and much more to come. God bless you guys. Thank you.